Hey everyone, welcome back to RetroBreak and welcome to another Games I've Been Playing Recently episode. Joined for the first time in a while with my parrot Pappy. The first game we're going to be taking a look at is Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, which is a game that I know you wanted to know my opinion on since I got the game a few months ago. Well, I finished the main game and I absolutely loved it, and I went back the other day on stream and played through some of the EX levels, which are the harder stages that you unlock once you complete the main game. I think they did a fantastic job of changing how the camera works in this game, which makes it so much more fun to play than Banana Mania, which came out a few years back. The only issue that I have with this game is the online multiplayer mode only runs at 30 frames a second. They did actually fix the other issues that the game had though, which caused the physics to run at 50 frames instead of 60, so I was really happy when I booted it up again recently and managed to play it. It was so much smoother than it was before, so if you've been on the fence about getting this game, definitely recommend checking it out because they've done a lot to improve it since it first came out. So very high recommendation for this game, and maybe once I've finished all of the EX levels, then I'll come back here and do a full review as well. The next game we've got here is Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, and I picked this one up at the London Gaming Market a few months ago, and when I first played it I didn't really know whether I was enjoying it or not, but after a few hours I really got stuck into this game and I've been very much enjoying playing it in the evenings after work. It's a mix of a farming simulator mixed with a 2D action platformer, and there's loads of things for you to find in the action stages that you then take back to your farm, and there's loads of things that you can do to like upgrade your weapons and different abilities and things. It's just a great game. I did read online that it's fairly short, and I've played it for about 10 hours now, so I don't really know how close I am to the end. There's been some very difficult boss fights, one of which I managed to beat the other day, so I was very happy about that. Definitely recommend it if you want something a little bit different, and it was fairly cheap as well, so yeah, definitely recommend playing Sakuna of Rice and Ruin if you want something different to play on the Switch. I had to go and put her away because she was just too excited to hear about all of these cool games. Anyway, the next game that I already attempted to introduce about 10 times is Stranded Kids, or Survival Kids if you're over in America. This is by far one of the best Game Boy Color games that I've ever played. If you saw one of my recent pickups videos, you'll know that I got this for a really good price. It's complete in box and it's a very, very hard to find game, so I'm extremely happy to own a copy. But not only am I happy to own it, I'm actually happy to play it because it actually turns out that it's a fantastic game as well. I did do a full stream of it, so if you want to check out my gameplay of this, I managed to get one of the endings. I think there's about 6 different ones. So definitely check that out if you want to see what the game's like, and I'll definitely be talking about it more in the future as well. Definitely one of the best games that I've played on the Game Boy Color so far. And another great Game Boy Color game that I picked up recently, again, complete in box, for a reasonable price. I've basically got all the prices for all of these expensive games that I want to try and track down, so I kind of know what I'm expecting to pay before I end up getting them. So when I see it for the price that I've got written down, I'll just jump at any opportunity. So this one is As Your Dreams, and I'm sure a lot of people are more familiar with the PlayStation 1 game, but this is actually kind of a demake onto the original Game Boy Color. And it's a dungeon crawler mixed with like Pokemon monster catching mechanics and a really interesting overarching story as well, so there's a lot to love about this game. I haven't really got that far in it just yet, but maybe I'll do a stream and check this one out in the future. Again, really happy to have this. It's been on my list for a long time, and look at the condition of that, it looks fantastic. Now for some Dreamcast titles that I've been playing, and I've been very much enjoying the Dreamcast recently, so I'll definitely be doing a Dreamcast focused episode in the future because there's a bunch I want to talk about this system and it hasn't had enough love on my channel. There's 2 games that I've been playing. One is called Headhunter, and this is a great semi-open world 3D action slash kind of like, oh, I don't really want to say it's like Metal Gear Solid. I know a lot of people make that comparison, but it's not really. It's very much its own thing. It's kind of like a third-person cover-based shooter with some stealth mechanics, but also kind of like a No More Heroes style open world where you ride around on a motorbike as well, and some sort of VR missions kind of resembling something out of Metal Gear, but it's very much its own thing and it's very, very cool, and it's got amazing graphics too. This was like the peak of what the Dreamcast could do performance-wise, and it came out on the PS2 a few years later and it wasn't anywhere near as good as this. So if you've got a Dreamcast, definitely check out Headhunter if you want one of the most unique games. And when I saw that FMV intro, and it was actually really well acted, I was very pleasantly surprised, and it's got a really interesting story too. You basically basically wake up as this guy who's lost his memory, and you don't know who you can trust and who you can't. And you kind of meet people along the way to piece your memory back together. And there's all this like overarching plot of the government trying to take too much control and harvesting criminals' organs and things. It's very, very strange. It goes quite deep as well, but definitely recommend it. And another game that is not deep in the slightest, but I've been very much enjoying it too. This one is called Speed Devils. And this one is a kind of generic racing game. It's made by Ubisoft and it's very well polished. I love the just the driving feel in general, feels fantastic. But the interesting thing about this is that you can do a deal when you're playing some of the races to sort of gamble half of your earnings on trying to win back bigger if you manage to beat a certain challenge. It's very difficult and I haven't managed to do many of them just yet, but I've been really enjoying just driving around these really big open tracks. It takes like 6 to 8 minutes to complete a race, so it is quite a relaxing game in some ways, despite it being quite difficult. It is just really nice to just put on and just enjoy that Dreamcast scenery as you're driving around these interesting tracks. And there's a really great progression to it as well, where you're getting the money to be able to buy upgrades and buy better cars to fill out your garage and continue on throughout the story. It's just a great racing game all around and one of the best on the Dreamcast for sure. Now a game for the PlayStation 1 that I was very happy to play. I've owned this for a long time, but my PlayStation 2 really struggled to read Japanese PS1 games, even though it's supposed to be region free. But I managed to find my original PlayStation 1 and put this game in, and I was so happy to see that it booted up first time. And this is actually the first time that I've ever properly played Raiden 2. I'm a massive fan of the original, so I'm just amazed that it's taken me this long to get around to playing the sequel to one of my favourite games of all time, and Raiden 2 seems just as good as the first one. So happy that I could get this to work. This is one that I've had on the shelf back there for about 4 years at this point, and this is the first time I've been able to play it. I was just over the moon. I was so happy, and it just seems like a fantastic game. And it kind of made me think that I want to do maybe a retrospective on the entire Raiden series. I only need to get Raiden 3, I think, and then I've actually got all of them, so maybe that will happen soon. If I don't forget about it, that is. But yeah, let me know in the comments whether you've played any of the Raiden games, especially the first two, because I think they are just amazing shoot-em-ups. And now for some downloadable titles on the Switch. I'm sure a lot of you watched the Nintendo Direct the other day, and there was 2 games that I picked up from there that I have absolutely fallen in love with. The first one is Peglin, which is the Peggle style game that they announced, and it's one that I'd actually wanted for a long time, and I was planning on picking it up for the PC, but when it came out on the Switch I just knew I had to pick it up on there, and I've been absolutely loving it so far. There are some things that I wish were better, like it does feel like it needs that extra layer of polish, which I saw some people complaining about on the Steam release, and I do think that's true as well. It feels kind of half finished in a way, like there's no real feedback to anything that you do, which is such a shame because the core gameplay loop is absolutely fantastic. And it hasn't stopped me being addicted to this game. I downloaded it last night and I played it for 3 hours non-stop, which is very rare for me. And as soon as I finished work today, I booted it back up and played it some more. So it's definitely a good game, but it could use a little bit more extra oomph like Peggle used to have. Peggle was just amazing for that. The amount of stuff happening on the screen and all the camera movements and the amazing music and sound effects, this game is sorely lacking all of that extra little fine-tuning. Like, the core gameplay is there and it's fantastic, but it just needs that little extra bit of a push. Of course, like a lot of people, I also downloaded the Castlevania collection, Castlevania Dominus, and I actually played this on stream the day that it came out, and I was so surprised to see that Haunted Castle had a brand new 16-bit remake, just like the WiiWare game that came out way back in the Wii days. So it was just fantastic to see that, and they've done an incredible job of taking one of the worst Castlevania games of all time and turning it into something that could honestly stand on its own as a full Castlevania release. It's called Haunted Castle Revisited, and it was just mind-blowing from start to finish. Check out my video. I actually recorded and uploaded the entire thing if you want to see what it's like, but obviously download it and play it for yourselves if you want to experience it. And I've also been playing and really enjoying the first game in the DS series, which is Dawn of Sorrow, which was always one of my favourite games in the Castlevania series. And I was just so happy for this collection to get released because a few months prior I'd actually just finished playing through the GBA collection, so to see the DS one come out so soon after that was just fantastic, and I'm so happy that Konami made this. And maybe there'll be a brand new Metroidvania game one day. well, Metroidvania, Castlevania Symphony of the Night style Castlevania. Let's not call it Metroidvania because that just feels weird to introduce Metroid into the series that it's also combined with in the first place. Just doesn't make much sense to me. I've seen some people calling these games Metroidvanias, and I just think that doesn't really make much sense because they are just Castlevania on its own. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. So let me know down in the comments below what games you've been playing recently too. It's always great to see what everyone else is playing and maybe get some recommendations from that as well. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye. About getting this. It's about getting this. It's about to know what. Let's start a game here that I. Let's start with what. Let's start with. Let's start. I can't. I can't because you're making me laugh. Gameplay and the way the camera moves.
I'm making you laugh.
The next one for the one is the next one is the next one is the and